Are you serious? Like you're rubbing your little butt on me right now. Does it feel good or something? Hey guys, welcome into my channel. Today I want to be playing with some new makeup releases and then some makeup that's just new to me. I did pick up the eyeshadow palette, the Luxe Quad from Pat McGrath from the Lunar New Year collection. This is the only thing that I picked up from that collection. It just looked pretty and I haven't picked up a Pat McGrath palette in a while, so I thought I would give it a shot. I also have some new drugstore releases, so I'm going to be mixing drugstore with high-end in this video. I do have the new Revlon Illuminance skin caring foundation, and then I did pick up the Makeup Revolution IRL Filter Finish Concealer, and then Ulta Beauty actually launched some like cream products and just a couple of other things in here that's new. I'm gonna try the new Give Beauty mascara again. I have tried this on camera once before, but it was pretty good. So let's just hop right into it. So I've already done my eyebrows. I bought the new DIOR like reformulated concealer and I do have a video on that. I will try and link that up in the cards. But they also launched two new primers, one that's like mattifying and then one that's the Glow Veil. So I did kind of a full face of DIOR yesterday and I've heard good things about their eyebrow pencil, so I wanted to pick that up and I did. It's in the Universal Brown shade, which I think is actually kind of dark, but I don't have anything else on my face except moisturizer. So I do want to go into an eyeshadow primer first. This is the True and Luscious eyeshadow primer base. This says it's infused with rose extract. This is something that did come in a BoxyCharm. This is in the shade Light Nude, but the reason that I always try the BoxyCharm stuff is sometimes like it turns out to be things that I really end up liking that are just kind of hidden gems. And I am on the hunt for like a new eyeshadow primer that's just lightweight but does offer a little bit of coverage. So I do want to try this today. I wish though that they were all kind of made with a doe foot applicator. This one is not, and it does have a little bit of a tint to it, which I personally like. I'm just gonna pick this up on the back of my like Rare Beauty, I don't know, concealer brush, is that what this is? I've never heard of this brand, but that happens in BoxyCharm, obviously. A lot of unknown named brands. It's really thick. It's tackier than I would say like the Juvia's Place eyeshadow primer, which has a really full coverage base to it. It's very, very opaque. And I feel like this is just a little bit more tacky than that, but it's as pigmented, it's as opaque as that one. And I didn't even use all of it. A little bit went a really long way. So let's just kind of let that sit for a minute and let's move on into the foundation. I have never tried a foundation from Revlon before, so I'm interested to see the quality of this. It says it's the Illuminance Skin Caring Foundation. Get the benefits of makeup and skincare in one with Revlon's Illuminance Skin Caring Foundation. Skin looks naturally radiant and you'll see smoother skin over time. It says it increases skin elasticity in 4 weeks. It's medium coverage and it's available in 28 buildable shades. It says made without parabens, phthalates, and synthetic fragrances. So very skincare infused kind of product, which a lot of companies are kind of doing nowadays. And some people really dislike that. I actually don't particularly mind it, but I don't seek out the foundations with skincare in them. It's just that I don't mind them with it in there. So this is in the shade 117 and it does have a 24-month shelf life, so that's interesting. I always pump this on the back of my hand to check the consistency. It's lightweight and it's runny, which makes me think like it's a lighter coverage, lighter weight coverage. I think this will be a good shade match. I'm gonna go in on this side first and just do half the face with a beauty sponge. I'm just using one of my e.l.f. Total Face sponges, which I really love. Really good shade match. And I wasn't even mad at like the number of shades that it had in its line for drugstore, which usually tends to be a little bit more atrocious than not. They usually are pretty limited in the shade range that they come out with. So that was just a tiny, tiny bit. It's definitely radiant, but it's super light coverage. Like there's just not a lot going on here. So I'm gonna build it up. I'm gonna see if this is buildable in any fashion. So that was like the whole pump. I mean, I would say it was about a pump that I put on, maybe a little bit more than half a pump. It's really radiant, very light coverage. It's slightly buildable, but it's probably not something that you want to build. It's probably something that when you're looking for a lighter coverage foundation day that you would reach for this, because I just think that it's so gorgeous in its like natural state, like not too much coverage, just very light to medium coverage. And yeah, I don't know that the claim to medium coverage is on its first application. It's probably something that's built up, but it's just not a foundation that I would want to build because it's a glowy skincare foundation. So I'm going to go in with a hopefully heavier concealer and like cover up some of the problem areas and leave the foundation a little bit lighter. I just took all of it from the back of my hand on this side so I didn't have to get a new pump and build up like I did the other side. So that is applied to both sides. It's very light, maybe medium coverage, and it's super radiant. So I can already tell, like as shiny as my forehead is, for somebody like me who has dry skin, that I would even want to set this down. Like it's just a little bit too radiant for me. It's not overly tacky for as radiant as it looks, but I already think this is not a foundation for somebody with oily skin at all. This is going to be somebody who likes a lot of radiance, more dry skin friendly foundation for sure. Like I don't know if you guys can see that when it catches the light, but it's radiant. It's illuminating. Let's move on into the concealer. This is the Makeup Revolution IRL Filter Finish Soft Matte Concealer, and it's waterproof, long wear, and breathable up to 16 hours. This does have a 12-month shelf life. So I'm excited because it's another brand that I don't try a lot of in terms of base products. Makeup Revolution, I've probably only ever tried their eyeshadows. So it's just a flat tipped like doe foot applicator. I'm trying to get it to focus. Which is actually kind of nice. It just looks like a little foot. So let's do it on my problem eye first. When I say problem eye, this is like the eye that's darker, and I almost feel like it's that way because of the dog bite that I got when I was a kid. And I feel like this eye droops a little bit more than the other one. And I do have, or have had like 16 stitches here. And so I kind of feel like this eye just over time has drooped a little bit more. I can kind of see it like in my brow that it doesn't go as high as this one. And I feel like that's from the dog bite. That was super easy to blend in. Like I like that it's a soft matte finish because I don't like something that's super mattifying under the eyes, and I don't like something that's super radiant. So soft matte is right up my alley. I am just gonna layer it up because I don't think it's full coverage. I think it's light to medium. But the problem with that is if you're not getting enough coverage out of it, then layering it up can cause it to crease. So yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely like medium buildable coverage. I don't think it's full coverage, but it's supposed to be long wear. So let's do this eye as well. And I'm gonna take it down the bridge of my nose and then spot conceal my chin. I am gonna go in with a second layer on this side since I did on the other side. I don't think that it's a very heavy formula. I think it's a nice kind of lightweight medium coverage concealer. I just thought that this was gonna be a more full coverage concealer because I thought the foundation was, but I don't think that it is. I'm just gonna take my DIOR Powder No Powder to set my face. That took a lot of the radiance away, obviously, but I do like it. But I still think there's a little bit of radiance peeking through. This is just, I wouldn't say like an overly mattifying powder, but it just has a lot of like, you know, extra like coverage because it's in a shade as opposed to like translucent. And it usually just kind of perfects the foundation underneath, but I did want something because I want to set down this concealer because I did put 2 layers, and that's always like a concern that it'll start creasing on me. I want to finish the base first. So let's move into this Ulta Beauty Cheek Squad Cream Face Palette Trio. And all of these are cream products. This is the bronzer, and it does come with a highlighter and a blush. This probably isn't like my favorite shade of blush. This is in Pop of Petals in this color story here. I always think it's interesting that they do like the blush, the highlighter, and then the bronzer, because that's, I just feel like not how we apply it, right? Like we usually apply our bronzer first, then our blush, and then our highlighter, or sometimes maybe highlighter and then blush, but they have this with the highlighter in the middle. I always think that's a little interesting. So let's swatch this bronzer. Quite creamy, quite emollient. Wow, that looks like a really beautiful shade. It looked really light in the pan, like a lighter bronzer than I would usually go for. I would usually go for something that looks darker upon looking at it in the pan, but I actually think this is gonna be nice and it's not overly sheer looking when I swatched it. I'm just gonna take a dry sponge and pick it up on the back of it. Whew. I'm gonna take what's left over and just do the other side because it seems like a little goes a long way. Oh man, Ulta, I think you did a good job on this. It's a really neutral shade, no extra warmth to it. Quite nice. I'm just gonna tap back in and do my forehead. What do you guys think? I mean, I think it's really pretty. It was super easy to blend out. Even over powder, it looks nice. It didn't pick up anything. And I just felt like looking at it was gonna be a light shade, but I think it's really beautiful for like fair to light skin tones. So I'm actually really liking this. Let's touch it. It's almost dry already, so it feels like a cream to powder finish. I wanna blend it in to the back of my hand. Look at that. There's no patchiness issues whatsoever. So I'm liking this so far. Let's move on into the blush, and I'm going to use a new clean sponge rather. They look harder in the pan than like when you actually start twirling your sponge in it. Like they pick up a lot. They're just really emollient and really nice and pigmented. This is better than some of my like high-end cream blushes. Really pretty shade, actually. Thought it was gonna be a little bit too pink for what I usually like, but I think it's really pretty. And I don't think it disturbed any of the foundation underneath, and I think that it laid on top of powder really nicely, and it just seems like a nicely pigmented product. I'm gonna do the touch test. Yeah, it has a quick dry time on it. I didn't swatch it, but I'm sure it's the same formula as the bronzer. There's the swatch. I do have an extra highlighter that I picked up from Ulta. This is the baked highlighter from J.Cat. This looks like it's a new release, but it's already on sale, so I do want to use it, but I do want to lay down this highlighter just to see, since I liked the other two products so much, just to see what it kind of looks like. This one almost looks like a peachy shade when I swatch it. It almost looks peach. But I think what I'm gonna do is just use my finger to kind of tap this in, because I'm not a huge like cream and liquid highlighter fan. I prefer powder, so I would prefer to kind of use this as a base and then lay down a powder. Very natural glow, and this one is a much stickier formula. So I'm gonna give that like a second to dry down while we look over this other highlighter. So again, another brand that I've never tried anything from. This is the You Glow Girl Baked Highlighter, and this one is in the shade Seaside Frost. This was just a pretty inexpensive product. J.Cat's been on my list of like brands that I've wanted to try. So when I saw this, I was like, well, first of all, it's already on sale. And secondly, like this just looks like a delightful highlighter. So it's pretty firmly pressed in the pan. Nice swatch right away, very champagne-y shade. Yeah, this is still like tacky, but I'm gonna try and lay the highlighter on top of it. Let's do the left side. I'm just gonna take a fluffy brush. Woo, that's pretty. Now this is of course the side that I have the scar on, so I get a lot of texture right here. And I don't think it's overemphasizing the texture. It's a pretty punchy highlighter. After I dug my brush into it, it kind of changed the pan a little bit. Like it's almost like an overspray, it looks like. Really punchy highlighter, very beautiful. I don't even know if a lot of us are using highlighters anymore. I do, maybe not every single day, but I like them. Like I probably won't just stop wearing highlighters. I do think that they're beautiful. Definitely don't like a bunch of glitter. So that's kind of what I look for. And I think the drugstore kills it, honestly. I just don't think you need a high-end highlighter anymore. It's just so beautiful and glowy. Okay, we are moving on into the eyeshadow quad. It's the Venus and Fleur Luxe Quad Voyeuristic Vixen. As far as I know, these are all 4 unique shades, and they are not in like new finishes or anything. They're not in a new formula. It's bright glossy red. There's the color story. 2 of these shades look really wet, these 2. See this shade? And this one not as much, but definitely still. Like, you can tell that this is a shimmer, but it's just not the same formula as the other two that really look wet. So let's swatch this from left to right, top to bottom. And this does come with a mirror on the inside. I will do live swatches. That's the first lighter shimmer. It almost seems to have a bit of pink to it, which it does not look like in the pan. This is a really, really chunky shimmer, and it's a duochrome. Okay. Yeah, we're definitely playing with that one. That one has a lot of like extra sparkles in it. Almost feels like the Blitz Astral formula, but I don't know that it is. So here's the only matte shade in the palette. Really pigmented, really, really pigmented. Swatching is such a nightmare. So this actually feels like this last shimmer one feels different than that duochrome. Even though they both looked wet, it's like these three shimmers actually all have different finishes. So we'll look it up after we swatch it. Here's the final swatch. Wow, that's beautiful. This one just has a lot of like suspended shimmers. This one is more chunky, more wet, and this is like a lighter, definitely like what I call the sophisticated shimmer, and it was a really, really nice matte. I kind of feel like maybe they should have done 2 mattes. Even though I like the formula of all the shimmers, I feel like maybe 2 mattes would have been really nice in here because I don't have a really good transition shade. We are going to use all 4 colors today, so that's that. So I guess we're gonna go shimmery. It says 4 brazenly bronze and captivating copper hues evoke harmony and luxury in creamy petal, soft matte and sparkling crystalline textures. Each silken powder formula glides on, imparting an even layer of intensely saturated color in a single swipe. Brilliantly blendable and ultra buildable, this universally flattering all-occasion quartet delivers iconic looks ranging from everyday exquisite to celebratory opulence. Whoever writes these things is brilliant. We definitely have to use them as a transition, or some of these colors as a transition shade. So I'm gonna go into this one because it had like a good base to it and it wasn't overly sparkly like the pink one. I would rather use a matte, but I think this will actually give me a decent amount of pigmentation. I mean, only time will tell here. Yeah, see, so if you put it on a pretty fluffy brush, you can get a good base to it without too much shimmer. So that's, I mean, it's nice. I was having to get a little bit rough with the pan and I'm making a little bit of a mess, but it does work as a transition or a base for sure. Now I'm going to deepen up the outer corner with the only matte shade here. And I'm just gonna use a flat angled like packer brush and pack it on the outer corner. I thought that matte shade was really pigmented and it blended out nicely over on top of the eyeshadow primer that we tried today. So I actually already like this primer. Like the shadows are sitting on top of it nicely. So I'm gonna take this duochrome here and I'm going to kind of put it on like the center part of my lid so we can use all of the shades. And then I'm gonna go into, wow, I'm gonna go into the lighter shimmer on the inner corner. This feels like so wet. That is probably my favorite shade so far. Like I do like the matte and then this one together. They're just beautiful. But I'm gonna go into this light like champagne-y, I don't know, kind of almost pink shade into the inner corner a bit to brighten it up. I think that's just so beautiful. I'm gonna deepen up the outer corner just a little bit more. I love that duochrome and I actually really like this combo eye look. So I'm actually gonna go into this shade right here, the matte shade, and go into the lower lash line on the outer corner. And I'm gonna really try and like smoke it out, but that's it, just on the outer corner. I think I actually wanna take that highlighter and just put it on the brow bone. This pink duochrome here is so wet looking that I would say this palette is worth it, even though it's $55 for this quad. I would say that spending that amount of money, that this is a very unique shade and totally makes the palette worth it. Like these two shades just by themselves could make a really beautiful eye look. You could build this up in the outer corner and then diffuse it inward and then just use this all over the lid. I just think that this is such a beautiful, very unique multi-chrome in my collection. And so for that reason, I actually think that this was a really good quality and a good pickup for me. I do think that there was like a normal amount of fallout with the palette though, because that's a chunkier shimmer, but I do really enjoy the eye look that we created. So I do want to go into the mascara that I have from Give Beauty. This is the Can't Stop Staring mascara, and so far I have really liked it. I've just tried it one time on camera, but it has this very interesting tip to it, and it has like just a ball at the top. And I think it actually startled me at first, like why would you make this? But it holds so much product on it that getting into the inner and outer corners of the lashes was quite easy with this. So I'm gonna throw this on. I didn't experience any transfer with this mascara the last time I used it, and it was quite easy to remove at the end of the night. Just, it didn't flake or like crust off, and it did not transfer. This is the first time that I've used it on the lower lashes, and I don't know that I love the brush for lower lashes. I actually ended up using the tip to do the lower lash line on this side, and I liked it better than using the bigger part of the wand. So yeah, I'm actually really liking this mascara. So I want to go into the final product, which is a lip product. I just threw on my Juvia's Place lip liner. This is the Luxe lip liner in the shade Lush. I really love those, but I finally got my hands on one of the Atomic Shake lip lacquers from HAUS Labs. I've had this for like, I don't know, a month at this point, and I totally forgot that I was able to finally purchase this on Sephora's website. And this one is in the shade Rosewood Shine. These went viral for a minute, so they sold out really quickly, but I needed to try it. I think they kind of have mixed reviews, but still, I really, really wanted to get my hands on it. And this is perfect shade. Like this is the shade that I really wanted. So of course, shake well before use. It's just your kind of like standard doe foot applicator. I do want to swatch this and see the consistency. It's just such a watery, runny formula. Now I don't know what to expect. It's really sticky. Put it on. It kind of smells like alcohol. Like it has the scent and it's not pleasant. I hope this isn't a bad product. Yeah, it almost smells like nail polish. So I think it's one of those that is gonna start to dry down and get tacky if you touch them together. So I'm gonna like give it a second to like sink in and then dry down. And by the way, if you hear noises in the background, my son has come upstairs to join me. So he's playing up here and going la 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 and making a ton of noise. So I'm rubbing my lips together, and so far there's no stickiness. Like they're not sticking together, but it's still staying shiny, but it's totally emphasizing my lip lines. So I'm not entirely sure what to think about this yet. I don't know, let's do a final wrap up of everything while the lip product just sits there, and we'll kind of like reassess at the very end. The foundation was super radiant, super illuminating, and I was able to mattify it, but this is going to be a foundation that's going to work for people with dry skin. I can tell already, and I think that it is definitely sinking into my like fine lines. After it sits, it feels like a heavier formula over time. So I will update you guys in the comments, but so far it's laying across my skin very nicely. It starts out to be kind of like a lightweight formula, but then it does feel like heavier as time goes on. So I don't know, that's about it. I will update you guys in the description box on the wear time of it, how it breaks down and all of that. I've been doing a pretty good job lately in doing that. So far the concealer was pretty nice. I think it's medium coverage. It doesn't seem to be like over creasing, but it's not a full coverage solution. Like I can still see some of my dark circles like peeking through, even though I did put 2 coats on it. So yeah, it's not full coverage. It's like medium coverage or medium buildable coverage, but it was a nice consistency. I think this Ulta was probably, I want to say this is like the, now he's singing Spider-Man. I want to say that this is probably my favorite product of the day. I don't think that this was very expensive. Of course, I will list it in the description box and I'll try to include prices of everything. Ulta'S first like attempt at a cream trio, so good. I think the quality was fantastic. Anybody who picks this up, I don't think is going to be disappointed. So I really like that. The actual eyeshadow primer base, I did skip over this because I forgot about it, but you know what? I actually have issues with Pat McGrath shadows sometimes getting patchy, and it's usually like the cooler tone shades, which is the matte that I used today. And I didn't find any issues with this. I think that this was a really good eyeshadow primer, and I'm like one of those people that puts it on sometimes and then most of the time I don't. Do get pretty picky about, you know, like the coverage that it offers, and then, you know, I find a lot of my eyeshadows will skip, and so I'll just say forget the primer and just go without it. But I liked the amount of coverage that this gave, and there were no issues with the shadows laying on top of it. So good sign. I don't know, sometimes those BoxyCharm items, they get me. They actually turn out to be like a really good brand I wouldn't have otherwise known to try, and they turn out to be really good products. It's about a 50-50 split for me on the stuff that I get. I think this J.Cat highlighter was really good, so much so that I think that I might try other J.Cat beauty items in 2023 because it's on my list. I never got around to like trying anything, or nothing grabbed my attention enough that I wanted to. The Pat McGrath eyeshadow quad, so good. I am one of those people that doesn't understand the huge hype that Pat McGrath has on some of her shadows, because I do have issues with some of the matte shades in the cooler tones and how they tend to look patchy on me, and they're super duper expensive. And I feel like there are indie shadows that you can get at half the price that perform better or just as good and still offer that uniqueness about them. So I am always hesitant to pick up a new launch. I have not picked up a new launch from Pat McGrath since last holiday of 2021. And even then, I think I've used that palette like one time. So I kind of like let him come and let him go. And I thought, well, this is just kind of a cash grab for this little quad here for Lunar New Year, but no way. This is such a good, cute, I mean, you're probably only gonna get like 1 or 2 looks out of it, but it's such a cute, like good color story, honestly. And I love the fact that every one of these 3 shimmers is a different formula. So nice about that. And this one, super foiled, super light reflecting. It's just, I would have bought this palette just for that had I known. And it doesn't look like a duochrome necessarily in the pan when you look at it, but it is definitely a nice little duochrome. So super thrilled that I picked this up. If I had known it was that good, I probably would have been playing with this a little sooner. So I'm really happy with that. The Give Beauty mascara, so far I'm actually really liking it. Like, I'm not gonna put it at the very top of my mascara list just yet, but I do think it's really nice. It claims to be lengthening and lifting is what this mascara calls itself. So I do think it's lengthening and I do think it's lifting. I don't think it's as thickening as I like. And when I say thickening, it's because I have really fine, thin hair, and that's how my eyelashes are. They're really long, just like my hair, but they're super fine and super thin. And so I usually like a little bit of texture, if I can't find a different word for it, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And so I don't think that gives me that on this mascara, but I do think otherwise it's lengthening, it's lifting, and it has a good amount of pigmentation. And I do like that little ball at the end of the brush tip, because I get really close to my inner and outer like lash line with it. And I think that that's pretty unique, because I don't know of any other mascara that does that. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, okay, tip, hello. I don't know if this is like all worth the hype necessarily. Like, I have Revlon and L'Oreal lip products from the drugstore that I think are very similar to this. Maybe not as opaque as this one is. This one had quite a bit of pigmentation, but I think it's emphasizing my lip lines. I do think that there's a nice gloss. The thing with these though, is that you have to watch how they break down. And I don't think that it's like drying to the point where it's sticking, but you have to see whether or not that begins to occur, because that's really like, is it gonna be good for long wear or is it not? Because 5 minutes doesn't mean anything to me, right? Like 5 hours does. Okay, maybe not 5 hours, but a couple of hours with these products. So I will have to update you in the description box on how this performs as it wears, and whether or not it breaks down strangely or my lips start sticking together. So this is like upon first application, pretty good, and I can still see the shine for something that doesn't seem like it would give you a lot of shine. So I can get the gist of this, but I will for sure update you in the description box. So if you like something super illuminating, yeah, this is definitely for dry skin illuminating foundations. Other than that, you guys, like, you can't go wrong with this Ulta Beauty like stackable quad. Honestly, so good. And if you were thinking about picking this eyeshadow palette up, I mean, if you liked my eye look and you thought that my notes today were pretty helpful, I just think that that shade is really, really pretty and really unique. So I'm happy that I purchased it. That is all for me today, you guys. I hope that today was fun. It gave you a little bit of R&R and maybe was helpful on the eyeshadow quad. I hope you guys are all having a great new year. So far, I am out of here and I will catch you all in my next video. Bye.